Joining me for headlines tonight are the two guys that live at the end of this sentence, Heath Enright and Eli Bosnick. Fellas, I got a great vulgarity for charity roast to open up with. Jeremiah would like us to roast the cis.
All right. That's actually a great request from Jeremiah. This one really got me thinking, actually. And here's where I landed on the cis. We're just a bunch of unoriginal cowards.
Right?
That's what we are. At some point in our lives, we thought about our identity, like who we really are as a person. And we counted our penises and stopped thinking about that very important thing. Yeah, because we're afraid of like figuring out pronouns or some bullshit. It's just lazy and boring. We're the fucking worst.
Yeah, being cis in 2019 is like being the only one in your family who doesn't play an instrument. Put some effort in. Spice some things up. Come on, people.
And speaking of spicing it up, we're going to take a quick break for a word from this week's sponsor, Hims. And now, back to the headlines. In our lead story tonight, Trump reminded us again this week that pandering to a religious base and being a bigot are functionally indistinct when he sought to shore up his flagging poll numbers by making non-Christians in South Carolina an official underclass. This came in the form of an exemption to anti-discrimination laws the administration granted to Miracle Hill Ministries that says that you don't have to give kids to Jews to get federal funding.
You won't let us deny food to gay people. You won't let us lynch them without all this extra red tape. You never let us do anything.
Yep.
At least let us prevent orphans from becoming Jewish. That's where American evangelicals are right now. That's what they're saying. And the president said yes to that.
Right now, and they're getting their fucking way. So, let's be super clear on where the law is going into this thing. Okay, so as of now, it's actually perfectly legal for adoption agencies to use prejudice as a metric for foster care fitness somehow. But you can't receive federal fundings if you do. And as much as I'd like to say that this is some storied tradition enshrined in the earliest days of the Republic, it actually is because of a regulation put in place in the waning days of the Obama administration. So this gave the Trump administration a chance to be bigots, appease their base, and unweave yet another thread of Obama's legacy. So you can see why they jumped at the opportunity.
Right. Come on, at least let us spite the black guy. Fine, yes, spite the black guy. That's actually that's part of the platform.
It is. Exactly.
It was make America great again, spite the black guy. And then it was really head in hand. In fact, it's not inaccurate to say that the unweaving of anti-discrimination legislature may be the legacy of the Trump administration.
Right.
Like everything else.
Well, that and the fucking scandals, yeah. And look, it's worth emphasizing this. We've known this was coming for a while now. Right? He's been holding on to this for a time when he needed some good bigot chum for his base. So much so that when the news stories over this past weekend were all about how he caved in on the shutdown and Ann Coulter called him a pussy, I turned to Lucinda and said, I bet he grants that adoption agency in South Carolina their little bigot waiver this week. Right? So keep in mind, if you're gay or trans or atheist or Jewish or black or female or Muslim or Hispanic, the total pool of rights you enjoy is directly correlated with fucking Trump's approval rating.
Yeah. Well, at least they know it can't get lower.
Why not?
Is that good? I mean, each of those people is about 40% of a person, and literally nothing can change
clearly.
That. So that's nice. Trump could announce Crystal Knocked 2.0 tomorrow, and you guys would be still holding strong at 0.4 of a person. So that's comforting, I guess.
No. Bright side. Come on, people.
No. Okay. And as to the legal angle, yes, this is more RFRA shit. Right? Lynn Johnson, an official speaking on behalf of the Department of Health and Human Services, said, quote, the government should not be in the business of forcing foster care providers to close their doors because of their faith. Religious freedom is a fundamental human right, end quote. Not adding the foster agency's freedom, that is. The religious freedom of the people who want to give a kid a loving home can go fuck itself. Clearly, I was talking about the other guys, the Christian guys.
Imagine being that bad a person.
Nope.
All right.
I really can't.
And in Brazilian Reasons Why news tonight, regular listeners to the show, thank you. Regular listeners to the show may remember the Alabama missionary who was killed last year by a secluded tribe when he ignored government warnings and snuck himself on their island, exposing himself and the tribe to mortal danger. Well, don't worry, because this week we learned that Christians haven't learned a fucking thing from that experience, and a missionary from Maine now faces charges of genocide for contacting different isolated tribes in Brazil.
Yeah, I would not like to be this guy's fucking attorney, right? I mean, look, facts of the case are white man contacts a native tribe. How often is that not genocide in the long run?
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, that's a tough lawyer job. It's like, no. Sometimes it's not a genocide. I'd like to enter Exhibit A, this Native American person, this one right here. That's the Redskins mascot.
Oh, God. Right.
Okay.
Nonetheless.
Still, but Dan Snyder is wearing it, so I would like half a point. We're not doing points? Okay. I
Half? 40%.
I'm the judge now. Yeah, so according to the missionary Steve Campbell, he was showing someone how to use a GPS when he accidentally wandered into the village of the High Merira tribe and started talking to them about Jesus, all while exposing them to about 500 years worth of germs they don't have immunity to, and very possibly killing fucking all of them.
Genocide.
Oh,
Yeah.
Right, okay, but to be fair, right, my dad tried to use GPS one time, and he wound up in an unexplored Brazilian jungle, and he was trying to get from St. Louis to Cleveland.
That's fair.
And there were no natives there, but if there had been, I'm sure he would have talked to him about Jesus. I'm just saying the cover story is plausible if you've met my dad.
Honey, don't make a left. You're going to literally run over that native guy if you make a left. Don't make a left. The computer says make a left and sneeze in his mouth. That's what the computer says. We're doing. Remember last time we ignored the navigator? Exactly. We ended up in St. Louis or Cleveland. Either way.
Yeah, so the consequences of this visit are uncertain because at this time, the people who could check on the tribe to make sure they didn't all die from the fucking flu are similarly compromised, and Campbell may face little to no consequences if Brazilian courts buy his excuse of this all being a terrible game of Marco Polio gone wrong.
I'm so happy.
Thank you.
You're a treasure.
Hours of work. Thank you. Either way, this story is a fantastic reminder that if you bring disease to possibly the most vulnerable population to that disease in the world, you sure as fuck shouldn't be calling what you're doing saving people.
Yeah.
No. All right. Next up in headlines, North Dakota State Representative Aaron McWilliams took some time away from drawing his mustache with a Sharpie this week to harvest Michael Ian Black's face for his skin mask. But that only took a couple hours, so McWilliams also went into the office and put together a proposal for a new bill that would make it a legal requirement for public schools to offer Bible classes.
Yep.
And I'm also assuming there was a small addendum in crayon in the margin that said also the First Amendment is canceled, really small. Well, fortunately, the bill got voted down, meaning it was dumb even for North Dakota, and North Dakota people knew that. But that didn't stop Donald Trump from tweeting his ardent support for the idea.
Okay, so he's just literally retweeting r/the Donald at this point, right? Like, if you told me at this point Donald Trump's biggest goal as president was Reddit gold, I'd get it. I'd get it.
All right, okay, but I should be the one that points this out here. If you do it right, Bible class is an atheism factory, right? Like I'm a teaching certificate and a move to North Dakota away from dissolving this controversy at any moment if it gets bad enough. So
that's true.
Yeah. So regardless of the fact that this bill didn't pass, North Dakota needs to leave. They gotta go. In related news, according to a new bill proposed by podcast representative Heath Enright, we're reverse annexing the Dakotas. We're making Canada take that shit over. You guys fucking deal with it. We're bringing on Puerto Rico and Washington, D.C. as full states, 2 senators each. That's the new thing. We're doing that. Because as it currently stands, taxpayer money is paying the salary of people like Aaron McWilliams, and that is unacceptable.
It is. That's true.
Just for the record, his bill would have allowed the Bible classes to teach that book as nonfiction and would have allowed those classes to replace a government or economics class as a graduation requirement.
Oh, really?
Jesus. Kid from North Dakota gets to his first day of college out of state, won't stop asking the RA where they keep the stoning rock.
You're right. Well, I can't see how this guy benefits from less education on good governance, though.
Yeah. So Trump heard one single piece of news that didn't involve his campaign team getting arrested by SEAL Team 6 last weekend. And he started making loud noises and pointing as much as he could. And then he stole his phone from the teacher's desk before the semester was over and tweeted the following in support of McWilliams and his proposed bill. Quote, numerous states introducing Bible literacy classes to learn about I Corinthians, I guess.
Yeah,
Yep,
no, right,
yep.
exactly.
Giving students the option of studying the Bible instead of government or economics or
Yep.
anything that might teach you about why trade wars are stupid and why treason is bad. So yeah, makes perfect sense. And here's the end of that tweet. Bible class starting to make a turn back? Question mark? Great. End quote.
Turn back?
I'd call this shameless pandering if it didn't work so well. Like it's not a bad magic trick if every time I pretend to throw a ball for my dog, she falls for it. You know what I'm saying? Is it me?
Eli, after a bad gig doing balls and cups for Madge, there's a visual for you. There's a sad visual for you.
Now-
you're way better than those little bratty
Now
Jewish
it's a
kids.
wrap.
Where's my thumb? Where's my thumb? Look, it's on another side now. You're a dog. So during a recent interview on Fox News, Aaron McWilliams was trying to defend his bill. Nothing about defending his mustache, which I thought was weird. So about the bill, he argued that our lack of a law that makes Bible classes mandatory is forcing the religion of secularism on students. Just like, the current science curriculum is forcing the religions of heliocentrism and oblate spheroidism on
Right.
students.
Exactly.
Finally, someone says something.
And regardless of getting voted down this time, bills like this are popping up constantly, including something similar in West Virginia while I was reading about this
Yes!
story. Literally, that happened while I was reading this one. And either way, this is apparently exactly the kind of thinking that resonates with the goddamn leader of the free world. Everyone go out and buy some goddamn stamps right the fuck now.
Okay, everybody, 20 minutes of teeth gritting practice a day minimum. You hear me? Primaries are looking dirty. Minimum. Grit and vote for whoever. Grit and vote for it. Look, I'm voting for Tulsi Gabbard right now. Oh, full-grown adult changed
Great.
your mind about whether gay people are people. Yeah, I pulled a lever. I did it.
And in maybe God'll help news tonight. We don't talk a hell of a lot about parliamentary procedure in the House Committee on Natural Resources on this show, and believe you me, we hear about it in the comments. As you all know, this subject is of interest to a wide swath of the U.S. population. Otherwise, it would be physically impossible for anyone to freak the fuck out when said committee moved to strike the words "so help you God" from the mandatory recitation for witnesses appearing before them.
Some nerd showed up at that committee and he's like, hey, cool. Yeah, Natural Resource Committee. I'm a scientist. Maybe the Dune model for water allocation is not ideal. I was just thinking, not ideal. So help me, Spinozan deity.
Which burn him, rabble,
Yeah,
rabble,
that's
rabble,
right.
rabble, rabble.
So, yeah, ranking member Raul Grijalva, who runs the now democratically controlled committee, proposed the change on Wednesday, which would, oh God, this is depressing, which would likely represent the largest concession to non-religious Americans made by the federal government in my lifetime.
Woo!
Right? Or at least it would be on the top 10 list.
The movement is strong.
Yeah. So- but look, the fact that fucking Joe Christian has never heard of this committee and wouldn't be able to pick its swearing in oath out of a list of shampoo ingredients didn't stop them from freaking the fuck out.
Lather, rinse, repeat. So help me fucking God.
I just love Christians are the Mundungus Fletcher of freak guys. I agree with theocracy.
So, in their ongoing effort to prove that no step towards equality is too insignificant to oppose, Fox News made this a major topic of interest during the most significant scandal in the history of the U.S. presidency, the second most significant scandal in the history of the U.S. presidency, the 3rd through 11th most significant scandals in the history of the U.S. presidency, as well as the 13th, the 16th, the 19th through the 23rd, and the 25th. Arbiter of moral virtue Liz Cheney appeared on the network to say the Democrats, quote, really have become the party of Karl Marx, end quote. Except for, the communism
The
thing.
Marxism.
Yeah, exactly.
I would bet literally anything she thinks it's the guy with the cigar. Anything. Absolutely anything. And in fake theist news tonight, as we approach the final chapter of A Case for Christ, we've asked ourselves and others, is this really the best the Christians have? And we were reminded again this week that the answer to that is a resounding yes.
Yeah. All I got in the mail from my born-again cousin, since he sent me that copy of A Case for Christ, was a rubber chicken with a Post-it that said, I came first. So, yeah. Creationism or a really good fuck tip, but bad evangelism either way is the point, yeah.
Absolutely. So here's the story. According to a fundraising email from the Apologetics Ministry Stand to Reason, passed along to Hammett Mehta at the Friendly Atheist blog this week, a Christian Bible camp brought in a fake atheist last week so campers could, beat the crap out of him in a staged debate / Q&A.
Jesus Christ. Okay, so Matt Powell is a trendsetter. In case you had too many reasons to live, in case you were just thinking, you know what I have is a lot of reasons to live. There's a -1 for you.
They brought in the suicidal amoeba.
Yeah, you kids, you stumped him. All right, so here's the quote from the email. Again, this is Christians telling the story. Quote, Nick even staged a Stump the Atheist event to conclude the 5-day camp. He brought an atheist, really a Biola student and STR listener, and the kids peppered him with questions, with many of them asking some amazing follow-up questions, even pointing out his inconsistencies. I was a bit nervous, Nick admitted. I wasn't sure anyone would rise to the occasion, but when the time came, after a week of training, the kids were armed and ready, end quote.
Jesus, what does that look like? Right?
The training's the best.
But yeah, no, I'm trying to imagine the Rocky montage if he knew in advance that Apollo was taking a dive in the 3rd, and at least the music is different. He's scrambling them eggs.
He's cutting slices off of the meat.
Christian kids run around a little pen picking up rubber chickens.
Yeah, right.
This is easy.
So given the nature of this story, I think the solution is obvious. Stand to Reason and this camp needs some real atheists to volunteer, and will be damned if we aren't the men for the job. So we made a quick stop to a local Christian day camp and would like to submit the following audio as our audition. Morgan, hit it.
Which is why you haven't been asked a question hard enough to fuck your mother with it in your miserable, sheltered Nazi youth mirror of a goddamn life.
I asked where the bathroom was.
So, how do you respond to the Kalam cosmological argument?
You're fat.
What?
I respond by pointing out that you, as a person, are fat. You are a fatty, fat.
I don't think you're supposed to
Fat.
say
Okay. Fat. Next question. You, brace face, metal mouth.
Never mind.
He's fat too.
Wasn't there a 3rd guy with you?
Yeah, he found the water slide.
You guys are missing it. You're missing it. There's no line. There's a water slide with no line. You guys. Okay, I'm going to go again. The best. I'm a Christian now.
All right, well, that does sound fun. So we're going to take a quick break and hand things over to my lovely wife, Lucinda.